Hi, this is Vinny from AlterEgo Games, and we're presenting Woven on Rated R.
Hey everybody, and welcome back, or should I say goeiemiddag, iedereen. It is another episode of the BAMS's Rated R podcast, episode I think 185, here on for some reason, a Thursday instead of a Wednesday, for reasons the Drac might be getting into. Yes, my friend, my pal, my colleague attached to me by a string, this week by a string of yarn. It's Drac.
Man, can you imagine just how much that would take to cross that distance? That would be pretty interesting to see, though. And actually, I would like to find out if it would still work. But yes, hello. We did push the episode a day because of embargo reasons, and we don't like to cross those things. But our guest today is Vincent da Silva here from AlterEgo Games to talk about the game they're working on, Woven. Vincent, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited, and I like the reference to the wool, by the way.
Well, thank you for joining us. This kind of came across our desk the other day, and we wanted to jump in and get you on the show here because this looks like a really cute game. For the folks that are listening, can you tell them a little bit about just kind of like an overall description of what the game is and what it looks like?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's actually about a world that's completely made out of fabric. So it's like a woolen world where all the animals are made out of cotton and stitched together, and the trees and the mountains. So the whole world has this cute vibe. And there's one main character there, which is an elephant called Stuffy. And he is a stuffed animal. And he's just wandering around. He's quite a naive little guy. Very positive. The positive things in life. He likes flowers. He likes adventure. He's a bit clumsy. And one day he stumbles into a weird machine thing. So he looks at it and he sees that there's a little robot in there. And that's a metal firefly. And this firefly is another main character who becomes friends with Stuffy, and he's called Glitch. So you have Stuffy and Glitch, and they go on an adventure. So it's a story-based game, which looks pretty cute and pretty innocent, but there's a darker side to it, because later you will discover that the world that they enjoy, that it's threatened by metal insects, and the world is being taken apart by these creatures. And they're the main characters who try to save the day, by the way. They want to stop these creatures. Well, especially Glitch wants to stop these creatures, and Stuffy is just there to enjoy everything.
Okay, so first questions first. I'm getting, just from your description, a little bit of a Yoshi's Woolly World Banjo-Kazooie vibe off of this. Is that completely wrong, or...?
Oh, well, that we get that a lot, that reference. Same as Unraveled. Don't know if you know that game.
I'm thinking Unraveled might be, time-wise, a little bit later, because you've been working on this since 2015, 16?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. We've been working on it for, I think, 3 years now. And actually, the origin of the game was 2 years before that, the concept. But the real development time started 3 years ago. And the last year, we've been building it full time. So we were able to complete it. And it's coming out this Friday. So that's why this podcast is on Thursday. But like you said, the reference in the sense of art style, it's comparable, but the whole genre is different. This is an adventure puzzle game, I would say, like a story-based game.
I think one of the things that surprised me a little bit when I was looking at the video for it, and you mentioned this in your description, was that the world itself is all woven textures as well. I thought that was kind of cool, looking at, some of the different areas that would have been grass or hills or mountain, and it looks like, if you were looking at like a woolen sweatshirt or even like maybe like at the fibers of a t-shirt. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, we really tried to keep the art style really consistent. So every little model that's been made has been made out of fabric, except for the metal parts. So there are actually two counterparts. You have the sort of a steampunk style metal, and then you have the buttons and the stitches and the quilt look.
On that one, all these fabrics that we see, some are linen, some looks like they're knitted. How much of this is just in textures, flat textures? Textures that look like they're knitted. How much of it is, I'm going to say shaders, because I guess bump mapping isn't really a thing anymore. So how much is actually made to look like it, and how much of it is just a picture of knitted fabric?
We made some special shaders, which do the not only the bump, like you call it, or the normal map, but also the translucency, or I don't know the word for it, but you know that if you look into the sun, like your ear becomes red if you look through your ear to the sun, like this transparent stuff. It's also in the main character. And the most of the models have a combination of ambient occlusion mixed with normal map, mixed with albedo, which is just normal texturing. So it's we tried our best to make it look as realistic as possible.
Oh, that's kind of nice. So if we zoom in on it, it will still look like fabric.
Yes. That's the idea, at least. I think the least detailed would be the terrain. Just the floor that you walk on, which only has the normal map and albedo map. But all the other things also have these extra effects, like the transparency.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, because otherwise that would be a lot to process for the shaders.
Yeah, and that was actually one of our biggest challenges, was to optimize this game, because it's quite huge. Average playtime would be around 10 hours. So there are like 5 quite big worlds to explore, and we wanted to make it, especially for the Switch, Nintendo Switch. So that required quite a lot of optimization.
Yeah, I can imagine, because the Switch seems like one of the perfect platforms to release this on too. This type of game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why we didn't have it. We didn't have it set yet. We tried only to bring it out on Steam. But later we figured we wanted to do all the platforms, like the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. But the Switch actually turned out to be the most fitting with the genre and the style, the art style.
So what kind of differences or challenges did you guys run into when you were, developing this for multiple platforms? Was it mostly just the optimization, or were there other issues with regards to like controller support?
Those two. The the optimization was the toughest one. We wanted to make it look exactly the same on each platform. So we wanted real-time shadows on the Switch, which were easy on the Xbox, for instance. But was pretty tough for the Switch to get it to get the frame rate constant on 30 frames. So that was a big challenge. And the other one was the controller, because originally we didn't know yet if we wanted to use the a controller support, because we had the Steam version, and then we were thinking of a mouse and keyboard. So later we added the controller support, also because of the Xbox, of course, and the PlayStation. But that turned out to be actually quite nice, because the whole feeling of being this character was strengthened because of that.
How does the camera work in the game? Is it strictly over the shoulder of the character, or do you move the camera around while you're moving the character around as well?
You can move the camera around, and the camera sort of hovers behind you. You can zoom in and out like a few meters, like 10 meters, and you can zoom in till you're right up at his face of the main character. And with the controller, you use one joystick for the camera and one for the walking.
When I've shifting gears a little bit, I've heard you say we a few times. So how many folks are there working on, or have been working on the game, and which part of that puzzle do you fill?
Quite a lot of people, actually, if you count the interns. And I really should count these interns, because they really made this game possible, because there were I think a year of modeling, which we could never have done with 3 people, because normally we were with 3 people. So we built the game with me as a level designer, puzzle designer, and concept designer for the art style. And then we have my colleague Dominic, who does the technical part, who does the porting to all the platforms, optimization, and programming. And then we have Matt, who does the story writing, and also does the communication with our PR people. So originally it's 3 people, but if I count all the help that we got, and including the voice actor and including the music writer, then we've got around, I think, 15 people for the whole project. Yeah.
So in some ways it takes a village.
I think you can never... it always grows bigger than you want, and then you have to kill some darlings, and then it shrinks again. But it's always more effort than you guessed.
I guess that's always the case with these smaller games, but perhaps also with the AAAs, some of the stories we heard recently.
Yeah, I haven't made a game yet that didn't take longer than I guessed. So I have to learn from this. But even if I double my time, it's still longer than I guessed. So I think it's just the curse of your own ambition.
I had a colleague once who always suggested to multiply by pi.
That's interesting. I would say that's even not that much to multiply by pi, but it's an interesting way to remember, at least.
Yeah, it's another one always said it doesn't. The theory of 2, that everything either takes 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. So if you think it takes 5 days, then it takes 2 weeks. If you think it takes 3 weeks, then it takes 2 months.
Okay, that's interesting. And then what happens if you then know this, with this knowledge you do that? Then does it still take longer, or do you then have the perfect sweet spot?
No idea. I've never tried either of them. I've always done low, medium, high risk estimates, and I've not done video game. I've done other software development. Always came in fairly exact, but even there we always underestimate, I found.
Yeah, I think our the main issue with the game programming and game development is that there's always more that you didn't know yet, and that you discovered during the process, that you have to fix something that you didn't even know existed.
For me, that feels like it's a thing in video gaming. that the development of the technologies that are being used is so fast that when you get to the next game, you go, I've learned all these things. Yeah, but guess what? Meanwhile, new things have shown up that you need to learn for the next one. So you're always having to learn new things. You're always having to chase that new bit of technology.
Yeah, and it's a curse as well, because we tried to really start this game with a lot of knowledge, to gain a lot of knowledge about how we're going to program it and develop it beforehand. So we had a lot of tools that we had ready, like tools to make terrain tools, tree generation tools, and dynamic weather system tools. And we ended up that we didn't use any of them because they were just not supported by all platforms. And we had to write our own shaders and our own tools in the end. So we thought we had a head start, but in the end it was just a curse.
On that, I saw that you did a Kickstarter back in 2016 that was a bit unsuccessful. So was that a blessing that you now didn't have the Kickstarter and the pressure that comes with that, if you had to redevelop so many things?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that it's a blessing, because most people react to it like, oh, that's too bad for you guys, it must be really terrible. But in the end it was a blessing, because we could now make the game that we wanted to make, because we figured out after the Kickstarter we asked for, I think, 85,000, and we got funded for half of that. And we ended up a month later like doing recalculations how big this game was and how much time and money it would cost, and we would never be able to make it the way it is now. So in a way, it's a blessing that we didn't get funded. We were actually very happy that we got this community going because of the Kickstarter. So we still have people that know us from the Kickstarter time that are still following us, and they're now in our Discord fan group, and that's quite nice. So in the end, it was a good thing that we did the Kickstarter.
Well, is there anybody of them you want to give a shout out to?
Well, specifically, no, I don't know the name specifically, but I know that there was Buddha Cat, who was really nice. He has his own podcast as well, and he did a nice promotion for us as well.
That's nice.
So shout out to Buddha Cat.
Okay, apologies, Drag. I've been hogging the guest here. What did you want to ask?
That's all right. No worries. Well, before, when you were talking about issues coming up unexpectedly, that reminded me of something a lot of times I like to ask, which is what kinds of bugs or things that were unexpected that popped up that actually were kind of funny. For instance, if there was a bug that maybe when you changed out a shader on Stuffy, it made his head go inside out or something crazy like that.
Yeah, we had a lot of those things, but mainly in our demo version, so the one from the Kickstarter. Well, for instance, we had one. In this game, you can change your shape. So you start off as a stuffed animal, and then you can find a knitting machine, and you can change your appearance. So if you know what a rabbit looks like, you can change your head into a rabbit, and your legs into a rabbit. So then you have a combination creature. So you can hit things with your elephant arms, but you can jump with your rabbit feet. And when we first had this tested this, then you see this knitting machine, he's going around the character, and then he appears and you see your new character. And for some reason, his eyes went like completely cross-eyed. So he was destroyed by the machine, like his brain was destroyed, which fitted the thing, because in a way you expect this not to go right. It's like a teleporter, but then changing the face. And those were quite funny. There also was a moment where you can push you could push a rock to the side, but instead of pushing it to the side, it was launched into space. And then 30 minutes later, you saw this ball of wool landing somewhere. These kind of things are quite funny.
That was one of the things that I noticed in the trailer. You mentioned the loom that, comes down and he changes shapes. Bit of a Frankenstein creation. How did you guys come up with that as part of the game mechanics?
Well, that's a really old game mechanic that I discovered this. I used to work as a freelancer for a website where they had all these children games, and they wanted to have a sort of a sub game where you can collect stuff. So if you play games, you win something, which then stimulates you to play more games. So what I came up with was that you can hatch eggs, and if you hatch these eggs, you get like a crocodile or a rabbit or a flamingo, and if they grow up, you can interbreed these creatures. So you get a new egg, which is like half a flamingo, half a crocodile, and all the body parts have different abilities, which you could use in a sort of a battle arena. And you can make your ultimate battle creature. And that was an idea that I had around 2001, so 18 years ago. And that game mechanic, I reused that game mechanic for the stuffed animals. Because I liked it that you can combine it, but I didn't like that you have to hatch a new creature. I wanted to give you the freedom that you can specifically pick which body part changed. So that's also why the stuffed animal theme came. So that it's not that weird that you tear off an arm and replace it with another arm because it's a stuffed animal. So that's where it came from. So it's actually a very old game mechanic.
Well, what kinds of animals will we have to pick from as we're playing through the game? What kinds of abilities will that give us? I know you mentioned like the rabbit legs and the elephant arms, but what else is available?
Without giving too much spoilers, I can say you have around 24 animals to collect, and one of them is a flamingo, which is more a funny animal. But for instance, you have a goat which can jump, and you have sometimes you have an overlap, so you can find a goat or a rabbit, and they can both jump. So the legs do the same thing. But you have other creatures like a rhino which can stamp with his feet, and so you have to pick one. If you want to do a puzzle, you have to figure out: do I want to stamp for this puzzle, or do I want to jump? Because it swaps. And you have some power animals which are really hidden in the game, and they have like a combination. Like some creature can do either stamp and jump, or they can push stuff or pick up stuff. So these kind of abilities, or sing. There's also an ability that you can do a melody with if you have a bird's your head is a bird. So those are some of the abilities.
Sorry, Vinny, I have to ask. A flamingo? Just which puzzle or what kind of puzzle requires an animal who just pees on its own legs?
Well, it's very useful to pee on your own leg, especially if you're bitten by some jellyfish, But in this case, we didn't do the peeing part, but we did do the wings, that you can fly. So that's actually quite a useful ability.
So basically, you took an animal that's most known for smelling terrible and use it for flying. Okay, no, makes sense. Fair enough. Sorry.
And as a comedy thing, because you can make your really weird Frankenstein with a flamingo neck,
So you can combine a body from something, then the flamingo neck, and then still have the elephant head?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's going to be a bit of a Frankenmonster.
You can swap the legs, you can swap the arms, you can swap the body and the head. So those are your mixture options.
So to get a little bit into the story, because now we have this mechanic, aren't we? You said he's called Stuffy. Aren't we having a bit of a Stuffy of Theseus, like a ship of Theseus, only stuffed animal?
You mean is Stuffy still Stuffy if you replace him? If you replace his parts? Well, that's actually a good one. That was actually one of the reasons why we were thinking so much about if we wanted to do it this extreme, like also the head, because then we were afraid that you might not feel like it's the same character. But we have you have some patches over his face, and there's a typical patch which is around his left eye, which always stays. So if you change the creature, he still has that patch there. So it's in a way you can still recognize him. And we also mentioned this concept, like, are you still the same if you change everything? But the one thing that you don't change is the eyes of the creature. So he always keeps the same eyes. And
that's kind of nice.
This is where the soul of Stuffy is kept.
So Stuffy remains Stuffy. Because I was kind of thinking, what are they called? Build-A-Bear. If you're familiar with Build-A-Bear workshops, I think you have them up there. You get a little heart that you put inside this stuffed bear, and that's where its soul lives. That's its love.
Ah.
Yeah, but I couldn't see how you would do that in game. But no patches, that makes sense, because he would still need a patch, wouldn't he?
Yeah, and it works. Nobody ever said like I don't recognize the main character. He still has the same characteristics and the same way of behaving. And it works. So that's lucky for us that it works.
No, I find it nice because it means you get your own Stuffy. It's yours to some degree. If you can color him and you can choose the parts.
Yeah. You can really make your own creature. And the fabric part, so the coloring part, that's also something that's a big part of the game mechanic. Because you can find these textures. The glitch, the robot scans them in, so he finds these textures and then it's in his database. And then if you go to a knitting machine, you have them added to your list. So then you can make a whole new colorful creature. But these fabrics are more than just the visuals, because they're also needed for instance, sneaking past giant spiders, for instance. There you have to dress up like the environment so that they don't spot you.
Okay, is there I have to ask when you say giant spiders, is there an arachnophobia mode?
No, there isn't. But it's just a robot spider, so it's not that scary.
Oh, trust me, some of us really don't like spiders.
Well, I'm not arachnophobic, but I do know some people who are. And they didn't have a problem playing the game. But there probably will be some people who think it's a bit too scary. But it is a sort of a how do you call this? A family game, I would say. So it's never like not like jump scares or stuff like that.
Okay. Well, to try and stay a little bit in this, because it's being a thing, and where you have color being an element in the game, like you can colorize Stuffy and you have to blend into the environments. Do you have things like colorblind modes?
No, we don't. We figured if we would add that, it would make it too difficult for us to complete this game. So it is not for everybody. If not for colorblind people, I would say. Well, you can maybe still recognize the pattern, but it is it's not something that we were really focusing on. So
it is a non-trivial bit of effort to put in. So yes, I can appreciate that. You also have to have a game out. You have to release it eventually. So there's no upper limit to how much time you can spend, how much effort you can spend.
Yeah, well, I do think that if you would, that colorblind people would be able to play the game because the names of the fabrics are also there. So it would make sense for the main, the main story would be able to play, but you can get lost in some detailed fabrics. Like, am I wearing the green thing or the blue thing? That could be an issue.
Well, and you've mentioned, different types of fabrics and, different colors. And, we see a couple of different things in the trailer. In the description, it mentioned that there were different areas that you'll get to explore. What kinds of different areas, like maybe different biomes, like, wooded areas or, whatnot, will we get to explore in the game?
Yeah, so we have like around 5 worlds in the game, which I don't really want to spoil, but we try to make all the nice nature things like beaches, forests, jungles, or meadows, these kind of areas, deserts. So those are some of the areas that we add. And there's also a slow transition, because the further you progress through the game, you will discover that there's more and more these robots which are tearing away this land. So it's also changing in that sense, that there's more metal and less fabric. So the balance switch, it changes. The balance it ends quite metal-y, which makes you the odd one out. Stuffy is the odd one out, and in the beginning, Glitch is the odd one out. So that part is quite interesting to see.
I understand if this is part of the story that you don't want to give away, but are we told in the beginning at all what the motivation is for these metal creatures, or does it just seem like they're maybe feeding off of the woolen world to build the metal world? Or
yeah, so there is some hints that there are these creatures, and that on purpose we don't tell why they're there, because at a certain point Glitch is also one of these robots, and he starts realizing that he's one of these guys. So that's part of the story, that he discovers that he is actually part of the other team, the other world. And he has lost his memory in the beginning. So, and you can discover parts of his memory, because if you find a machine, then Glitch can plug himself in, and then he gets some memory back. So there's a sort of like a history part of the game, which you can do as a sort of a side quest. So if you like collecting these things, then you know more what's going on by just finding these machines.
Is it a story that is a little bit towards environmentalism, nature versus industry? Hey, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, where they are tearing down all the trees. Is it a little bit in that direction we're going with the story?
Well, it's not intentionally like that we want to give some environmentalist shout out or something like that. It's more a fantasy story. So it's more about I would sooner say that it's more like Avatar, the movie. Like you have this world, and it's endangered by another race, and how are we going to stop this, and what are they really trying to do?
I would say Avatar is severely environmentalist in its message.
Yeah, that's true. So it's a bit of maybe it's a bad example, but it's more the story as a storybook story than giving a lesson to the world.
We could dig into the whole question of, is art political here? I'm going to skip that because Drake hates it when I do.
We'll be here for another hour, probably.
Easily. But going back to Stuffy, because, he's kind of the hero, isn't he? At least when we see it, when we see the trailers, and for people on the YouTube, there should be a little bit of gameplay going on in the background. He's nice, and he's, Stuffy. Is there a chance to get, Stuffy, is there a chance to get a physical edition release? Disc and a stuffed Stuffy?
Maybe. And at the moment, what we did is we have one stuffy, so like a real physical stuffy, and depending on if this is how successful this is, we might do a massive production of this caricature. Maybe we even want to do the body parts changing option. That we get all these animals as a stuffed animal, and then with some detachable parts, with like this. How do you call this? I don't know the English word for this stuff that you can stick and remove.
It's like interchangeable parts.
Yeah. So that was one of our plans, but it all depends on if we are successful enough to pursue the real physical area of this product.
It might just be me, but it looks like it should have like a limited run version, or any of the other releases or publishers that do physical releases. It would be nice with a disc, because I lean towards always having disc versions, and then a stuffy, or I don't know, a printed glitch. Although he seems more like you could release Glitch as a 3D printable file for people who have 3D printers.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We with the Kickstarter, we actually made this promise that you can get Glitch if you back us for a certain amount, and you get a stuffed animal if you back us for a certain amount. So that was really a real plan, but this is also our first game that we're releasing, and we're really just excited about this launch, and we have no idea what will happen. So I think that will determine a lot of these choices.
Well, and I think I remember when I was looking through some of the YouTube stuff that you guys have, you guys were joking about that there might be a stuffy on the black market somewhere. I guess so. There is a stuffy out in the world somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. We have two stuffies, but one got stolen. So we were at this conference. Where was it? It was a game conference somewhere, and we brought this stuffed animal, but it just got stolen. Actually, he didn't get stolen because they wanted the animal probably, but they stole the whole wallet and stuff. So there was a whole bag stolen, but he was in there. So there is one just wandering around, or maybe ended in a trash bin, or I have no idea where it is. But maybe it will turn up one day.
There's probably a kid somewhere who just have a stuffed elephant without knowing what it is.
Yeah, and then he sees the game, and then he thinks, hey, that's exactly the same one, with the patches and everything in the same place.
Ooh, that could actually, that could be an interesting side effect.
Yeah, because it was really handmade, like that it's the same as the 3D model, so it should be traceable. So maybe we can catch the guy who stole it.
Perhaps, but I just saying, get us access to them, because if the game is a success, it has to be. This is way too cute a game not to be a success. You'll need to have versions, physical versions of them, including of the game. As I said, with Glitch, I could probably live with it being something people can home print, because that, for some reason, that's a thing. I don't know why, but it's cute when games release these little, like, here's an STL file that you can print yourself, or you can buy the proper version with all the colors, because 3D printers are a little bit limited in colors.
Yeah. So you suggest we should do it anyway, regardless.
Well, let's have the game be a success first, because I think these kind of things require a bit of budget.
Yeah, that's true. You need like around 500 to make it affordable. So, but I hope so. It's a very big chance that it will be a physical version if we are successful enough, let's say.
So people, there you have it. Go out and buy this game so I can get a stuffed bear. Elephant.
Elephant.
I have a bear already.
Or flamingo.
Yeah, but no, I have issues with flamingos.
You really don't like them, do you?
They smell terrible.
I've never smelled a flamingo, to be honest. But you live next to a flamingo farm, or?
No, I've traveled a fair bit, so I've been subjected to them when, there's a lot of them in Florida, for example.
Ah, okay.
I should say, since we're both in Europe, if you find a pink flamingo over here, it won't smell as bad because they give them something else. There's a whole bunch of artificial color and stuff in their food, and therefore they smell differently over here.
I heard that the color of the flamingo is based on the food that they eat. Is that correct?
It is. It's a small crustacean that they kind of filter out, because they're basically filter feeders. They filter out, they eat, and the crustacean is pink, and therefore they're pink. And we don't have those crustaceans over here, so they had to artificially dye them via their food.
Else nobody likes them if they're not pink anymore.
Yeah, because who wants a pale gray flamingo? It just doesn't work.
So naturally they're pale gray.
Naturally I guess they're whichever color the food is, considering how they behave. But yes, it's up there with polar bears are transparent, they're not white. It's weird.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Like the hairs are transparent.
Yeah.
But the light bounces and they look white, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So the nature folks over there introduced a shader to the flamingo population.
They should make rainbow flamingos in real life, because that's apparently possible. To just make a lot of colors for these creatures.
Okay, that could be interesting. I'm sure there would be somebody complaining about it, but yeah. I should say the only reason I know of it is because I'm in Brussels and, well, the EU banned the thing they used to make them pink with, so. It's a long story. Politics. Let's not get into it, because Drag will hate me.
So I see the game is releasing in 5 different languages: English, Spanish, Dutch, French, and German. Was that, just that you guys on the team all speak those languages, or you guys brought in other folks to help with the translation?
We brought in other folk. We would never risk doing all these translations, but we wanted to make it as wide an audience as possible in terms of language. Actually, we didn't. The narration is always in English, but the subtitles are multi-language.
Okay. And then I saw that. So this will be on Steam for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And then, of course, we talked about Switch, but I believe it's also going to be on Xbox One and PS4?
Yes. So I'm excited to see what that does. That was also quite... it's quite new for us to do more than one platform. So, we have no idea. Do you think it fits? The Xbox, for instance?
A lot of times I think people get hung up on, these tremendously popular, teen and adult-oriented AAA games, the shooting games and things like that. But, you got to remember, too, that there are plenty of people who own those systems who, either they themselves like, puzzle platformer games kind of like this, or, they have kids in the house that play these kinds of things. Unraveled, we mentioned earlier, was a huge success. So I think there's definitely a market for it on those. At least in my opinion, anyway.
It feels like it should be a fit on the PlayStation. There's a lot of games in similar styles, at least, over on the PlayStation. So I would expect it to fit in nicely.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's next week will be, this Friday will be a very exciting time for us. We will, it will launch like every hour in another country. So the whole day we plan to stay the whole day at our office with some pizza and just see what happens. And then hopefully we'll get really busy after that. With doing some interviews and this kind of stuff. And we have really seriously have no idea what it will do. So let's just cross our fingers.
Well, and on that note, I noticed that the Steam page didn't yet have the price listed. What price point are you guys going to be selling this?
It's going to be around 19 euros, which is like, what is it, 22, just under $22.
Okay.
About £15, I would assume, £16.
That's well, yeah. We looked at other games and how long you can play these games and what it's worth, and we figured this is a nice range for this game, like 10 hours of gameplay, quite a big story. So
it seems cheap. I mean, it seems like a good deal for the people buying it. So be careful with using words like cheap, I guess. I would have guessed, honestly, 25-30 euros.
Well, I hope that it turns out that everybody thinks it's cheap and then we just buy it because of that. I hope that's a positive thing, that it looks... Yeah, you never know how it works, you know? Like if it's too cheap or too... Yeah, that's... Yeah, it's just a rough estimate that we did based on games that are sort of similar in this storytelling way.
I don't think 10 hours is short. That might be me. Somebody observed recently in an article I was reading, 100-hour games work well when you're a teenager or early 20s, mid 20s. But as some of us gets a little bit older, start having kids, etc., 10 hours games, they're a good fit. 8-10 hours, no more than that, is a good size for a game. I would not consider this short.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, then let's hope that everybody agrees and just buys it and enjoys it,
Oh, definitely. People need to go buy this one. We need to go wishlist it because it's out tomorrow, not today. So wishlist it, or if you're on the consoles, I don't know if you can wishlist on any of them. I don't think so. But have a page open so you're ready to buy it when it hits your country. On the languages, since you already sort of mentioned it, English, Spanish, Dutch, French, German. Is there any reason not to try to hit Chinese, for example? Because games of this style and this size seems to do almost better over there than over here.
Yeah, actually, we really wanted to do Chinese, but it's purely because of this, the deadline that we set, and we for our next, because of course we will keep building games, and our next game will probably have Chinese in it, but it was such a hassle by itself to get all these languages up and running, and you have to hire someone. And in the case of like French, we can still sort of make out if it's correct what they're saying.
Yeah.
But with Chinese, it would be completely gibberish for us. So we decided that we would do that for our next project. Just this was actually already quite a big step for us to do these languages. So let's do it one step at a time from now on, and just add more and more, and we'll see what happens. So there's also an issue with fonts, that Chinese fonts need to be supported. So it's more technical as well.
Oh, definitely. So, that's one of those that also adds effort.
Yeah. But next time we will add Chinese. But you're right that we also figured that this market would be very interesting with the genre that we have. This cute, almost anime kind of character.
Well, that might be something that depending on how well everything goes, you guys could always add, in the future. But speaking of future plans, and you mentioned next game, are you guys thinking towards something like Stuffy 2 or maybe the next one is a prequel where you play as Glitch and then you see how he loses his memory? I'm just spitballing ideas, but I am curious. What are your future plans?
Well, at the moment we don't have any like follow-up game like from the same world, you know. So we don't have a Woven 2 or anything like that planned, but we do have some story-driven games planned. So that's actually our main company ambition, to make story-driven games. We really like storytelling. So we have another one planned, which is a more realistic kind of game. But I cannot say too much about it because it's still in a concept phase. But if this game really takes off, then we might do a sequel later. But it will probably be like a year later then, not immediately, you know?
Well, isn't it that headache that when you're developing games, suddenly there's all these other ideas that show up, and now's your chance to try out those ideas?
Yeah, it's always, and I think the main thing you need to be in this industry is to be flexible. Like if something comes along that, for instance, if this will now do something so huge that we think like it's crazy not to do a follow-up, and we might do it immediately. But we just try to make as much games that we really like, you know, that we're really ambitious about. And this was quite a long process to finish this game. So it's also nice to do a refreshing new game, you know, with a completely new story, completely new mechanics and stuff.
Sort of refreshing the palate.
Yes, exactly. And so I think there are too many people with too many ideas in our company itself, so that we want to give everybody a chance. And we also want to do a bit more action-based stuff. So it's also something that we got planned to at least become better at real action moments, even if it's a story-driven game.
So Fluffy meets Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I was thinking like Woven 2, The Return of Stuffy, where he's got like a Rambo headband on and his legs have been replaced with like Terminator steampunk legs or something.
Yeah, so like a cyborg version.
Yeah, there you go.
You can do it from another point of view, from the creatures, you know. Like now you see the robot insects, which is probably more Transformer-based kind of game.
Ooh, that could be fun too.
You just gave me the wildest flashback to James Pond 2, Robocod.
that existed.
Yeah, that was a long time ago, early 1993, 92.
Now that's quite old. That's from before the... What was it, a 3D game?
No, side-scroller.
No.
The whole James Bond series was a side-scroller.
Yeah.
There's 3 good games. They're actually quite good.
Robopond.
Okay. Anywho, talking of cleansing palettes and all that, I think Drac has a question that, considering the nature of your game, the theme, the creatures and everything, seems highly irregular to me. But Drac, that final question, you want to ask it?
Yeah, this is something that we like to do at the end of each show, and just we ask everyone who comes on the show, and it's non-gaming related, just a little bit of fun. So, what kind of bacon do you like? How do you like said bacon prepared? And what kind of beverage, be it alcoholic or otherwise, would you pair with said bacon?
That's really interesting. I didn't see that one coming. Okay, so that's actually quite double interesting, because it's, apart from being a weird question, it's also a moral question a little bit. I like my bacon walking around in the mud and in the grass most of the time. But I have to say, for 2 years now, I've been trying to eat less meat. My wife is already completely vegetarian, but I still like to eat some meat sometimes, And bacon is actually something I didn't have for a long time, but I really liked it on an egg, in the morning. And I also like it on pancakes with syrup. So I would say bacon and eggs with coffee, or pancakes with bacon and syrup, and then with some triple beer.
Well, since you mentioned the bacon with the pancakes, one thing I would offer, if you happen to have that combination again, and I know it'll sound a little bit strange, but put peanut butter on the pancakes as well with the bacon and the syrup. It is divine.
You're making a sort of a Snickers kind of add to it, or what? Like a deconstructed candy bar, but then with bacon, which is a bit weird. Like the bacon gum, which is also quite weird.
It sounds strange, but it tastes great. I mean, if you like peanut butter, that is.
Yeah, I do. So I will definitely try it.
I would say if you, bacon and pancake, then you get that saltiness a bit toned down, and you get a lot of flour in it. And then, you say a triple could be a good companion to it. I can definitely see that part.
Yeah, I really like the combination of pancakes and beer. I think it fits. I don't know how you eat your pancakes, but our pancakes are quite thin.
So more like crepes.
Yeah, exactly. And then with some also not that thick bacon, but a bit crackling bacon, and some syrup over it. Yeah, and I'm getting. I think I have to cheat on my vegetarian.
So no, the crepe I can understand, because otherwise you do risk it becoming rather heavy, particularly if you go for something Belgian triple. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also always good to drink some beer in the evening, especially triple.
I would be remiss if I don't say, and I think it's available up in the Netherlands, there is a vegetarian bacon that's being sold, at least here in Belgium. As I said, I think it's available in the Netherlands, which is basically seaweed that for some reason tastes like bacon.
I know it. I also know the small, you have these little bacon cubes, So that's
those.
Also a vegetarian version of it. That's actually it's quite good, but it is seaweed in the end, so it's not really a valid bacon.
But as long as it stimulates, the senses and the brain just right, I'm okay with it.
So why the question?
It's just something we started doing a long time ago. We ask everybody. It's just kind of a bit of a fun question and a break from all of the stuff about video games.
Yeah, always the game related stuff, like what's your favorite game, and it's nice that that's a different, completely different thing. It says more about your life, your private life. I think that's nice.
It shows a lot about the people who answer it, both in how they want their bacon, how much effort they put into. Some will give us longer recipes on their bacon, where you go, okay, this is a part of their life. And it gives an image of the developers who are making these games, because we're at a point there, what was it last year? 9,500 titles hit Steam. How do you select which one to play? Well, part of it is, who's the developer? How can we connect to those people? And hearing that there are regular people who, might be vegetarian, might not drink alcohol, might have a preference for one thing or another, or be like Drag and put peanut butter on everything. It's nice to hear that there's real people behind this. And as you say, there's the moral question. Vegetarianism. How do you feel about eating meat in general? or the religious question. We've had some saying, I should probably not say that it was Bam who keep asking for some reason Middle Eastern people about bacon. That comes up difficult at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's not a bacon. My brother actually is not allowed to have bacon, so because of his religion. So that's interesting. That question is more has more depth to it than it sounds.
Yeah, it's a bit unfair, but as Drax said, one of the guys just kind of started it and it stuck with us, and turns out to be a really good question. So we keep doing it.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, Vincent, Vinny, it has been awesome having you on and hearing about this game, Woven, coming out tomorrow on Steam, PS4, Switch, Xbox. I really like the game. The reason why we caught it was because somebody poked me and said, why haven't you talked about this yet? And seeing it, it's that, stuffy elephant by default. That texture looks almost like linen on him. It evokes that feeling of comfy, of old time. The slightly cheaper stuffed animals, instead of the complete plastic and island that we get today. To me, it hits all those feelings of, childhood and comfort. Just looking at, even just stuffy. But then the mechanics that we see in the trailers and the story that you're putting into it, this is a game I want to play. Now preferably, but I can't because it's not out yet. So, all I can do is wish you all the best with this game, because it needs to be a big success. Also, so we get some physical stuffies.
Well, thank you so much for this. These nice, kind words. We really hope that it will be. And thank you for inviting me as well to do this talk about Woven.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you joining us. And, as G said, I myself too, also, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on this thing so I can get some of the footage recorded for the background and just play through it. It looks super cute. I'm sure my kiddo will want a chance to take a look at it as well, because that'll be right up her alley.
Yeah. Let me know what she thinks about it. Really interested in the younger audience, what they think.
Well, folks, thank you for sticking with us today, for joining us for the interview. It has been the game Woven. We will make sure that all of the links are in the description for different social medias, website, Discord channel, and stuff like that. Once again, thanks to Vinny for joining us today. And if you haven't already followed our stuff, to make sure you do so you get updated anytime we release new interviews like this. And if you're already subscribed and following, thank you very much for that. This has been the Bamsters Rated R podcast. I am Draconis, and I am out of here.
Ciao.